This is the Living in Clarity podcast. My name is Brandon Fisher. This is Coach Ratner, and today we have special guest Shmuley Vladimirsky of the Jewish Breaking News.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
It's great. Tell us what you do.
I am currently in yeshiva, and on the side I'm managing an Instagram account called Jewish Breaking News and a network of WhatsApp groups where we cover everything Jewish and Israel related around the world. A lot of it has to do with Israeli security events and politics and things like that. We also dabble in American politics, but mainly Israel, because a lot of the media outlets nowadays aren't doing a good job covering the details of events on time. They'll report about attacks maybe a few hours after they happen, but people want to know about what's going on when it's going on in real time. So that's kind of the void we're filling.
Wow. How'd you get involved in that?
Good question, actually. So during Corona, I got really bored, and because I was at home, I decided to learn about Corona, and I studied it and did research online. And I actually created a WhatsApp group called Corona, like breaking Corona updates, as a joke. And it actually started to grow to a substantial number, like a few hundred people joined the group. And somebody who joined the group had been a previous contributor on Jewish Breaking News. And he reached out to me and said, would you like to join our contribution group? So I joined a few years back when Corona had begun. And since then, I kind of moved up the ranks and started contributing more. And I got to the point where I was actually, posting most of the content now on social media and on WhatsApp.
Wow, so to find the content, you're not going out into the scenes and experiencing it, because then it would be too slow already. How are you getting the content up so quickly?
Good question. So actually, in some instances, if the incident is very near, close by, I'll go there. If it's after and it's safe, it's confirmed safe by authorities, the incident is over, there usually is still what to, photograph or video on the scene. A lot of the times, though, we use something called open source intelligence. It stands for OSINT, and that is pretty much the collection of video and camera footage from people's personal cell phones that they post to social media, and using those images and videos, you can glean details. You can check that these images and videos are new using online reverse image searches, so we can see if they've been posted to the internet before. And if they haven't, we can verify the location, see the weather, is it similar.
What's it called? Reverse what?
It's called reverse image search. There's a tool on the internet called TinEye where you can reverse image. You can do a search on an image and see if it's been posted on the internet before, and that's very useful for confirming information. Now, a lot of that doesn't normally have to be done, actually, because most of the time there are Israeli groups that are dedicated to terror events. There's something in Hebrew called facha, which is events that are stemming from terror. So stone throwing, stabbing attacks, shooting attacks, anything terror-related, not criminal, would be reported on these groups, and they're usually very reliable, and they have security forces on those groups, EMS on those groups. So the information there can be verified pretty accurately.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
people are. Is this an automated machine that goes through social media accounts and finds the videos for you, or you know where to look on videos?
Good question too. So actually, it's not automated. These are people who are sitting on their couch in Tel Aviv or on the beach in Eilat, and they're just getting alerts, and they're kind of aggregating information. So there'll be, if one person reports one incident, it kind of will spread across the network of groups, and it will eventually get to me. And it's not automated. So the video and footage, usually people search for it location-based. Like on Snapchat, a lot of the things we've been seeing is that in Judea and Samaria, Arabs enjoy using Snapchat. So when they post a video to their story, it'll actually be location-based and public for anyone to see. So you can zoom in on Snap Map, and you can actually see different videos taken at different scenes. So if there's a big, funeral for a terrorist in Jenin, we can actually see the videos live from people's phones in Jenin using this technology on Snapchat. And it's very common for them to use it. Another thing is TikTok. They'll hashtag their videos. And on Twitter, we can just search using keywords. And Twitter has the latest tab where we can look at the most latest tweets about that topic. And that can be really useful for finding out information.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so you are the kind of content producer end of this whole...
Right. I feel like in Israel, there are a lot of alternatives to what I do. There are many groups, chats. There are countless group chats. Israelis love telling other Israelis what's going on. They opened many group chats, and they are posting similar content, but I'm the connect between the language barrier between Israelis and Americans. Mm-hmm. And most of the Americans aren't going to be found in these WhatsApp groups. They'll use short abbreviations, unclear images, data. Like, they're going to be posting messages like one-word messages sometimes, like terrorist attack here, and like to combine that into a coherent message and to gather information from other sources to make it reliable, accurate, and confirmed is super important. And there's like a lack of it, even in the Israeli groups, to be honest. So, that translation factor factor. I taught myself Hebrew to be able to do this.
I was going to ask, can you just talk about how you learned really quickly?
So I wish I can tell you more about that, but I came to Israel knowing a few words, and I quickly realized the beauty of the Hebrew language and the common sense behind each word. Everything makes sense.
Yes.
Once you learn a word and you learn its rule, you can start to speak with people. And I found Israelis are one of the most, friendly people if you don't cut them off in traffic. They are loving to talk to new people, Americans especially. They found that fascinating. And speaking to them kind of improved my Hebrew. I did some volunteering in MADA, which is Israel's national EMS agency, and blood bank agency as well. And, like you have a patient, he's like, I can't breathe. You have to understand what he's saying, right? You have to treat him. So I learned pretty quickly. And together with the news aggregation, all the messages were in Hebrew. And in the beginning, I started off with Google Translate. But very quickly, every time translating similar words, you gotta start to pick it up. And at this point, thank God, no more Google Translate necessary.
That's
so,
great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's really. And how long was that whole process of learning Hebrew?
I would say when I came to Israel for the first time in my life last August in 2022 or 2021, it was already. Wow, that's been a while, right? 2021.
Yeah.
I started learning about Sukkot time. And I would say I became pretty good by the summer. So
That's
took,
pretty amazing.
Yeah,
It really
took
is.
some time.
It's just
Wow.
what's possible.
Thank God. Yeah, Hebrew is a beautiful language. I recommend people.
I have not gotten that speed learning Hebrew. So tell us about your subscribers, viewers. Has it been growing? What? I think there's a story here somewhere where you got kicked off or something. Twitter.
Sure. So actually, back in October and July of 2020. I had opened a Twitter account because I felt I was covering a lot of news, Israel-related and Jewish-related, but I was also very interested in American politics and world kind of events that were unfolding during that time. And I had opened it around the time there was an explosion in Beirut, Lebanon. I'm not sure if you remember.
Oh, yeah. The big one.
Massive explosion. There was please fact check me here, but I think there may have been hundreds of thousands of people displaced from their homes, many people killed. I don't want to get into the numbers because I don't know. But the videos of the explosion, using the tools I learned for open source intelligence, I was able to find videos very quickly being posted by civilians on different channels. And they started, quickly making their rounds to Twitter where I found the videos. And, it's impossible to know who took the video. It was probably sent across 5 family WhatsApp groups and then a Telegram channel. And then someone posted it to Twitter saying Beirut. But I posted those videos to Twitter and they started getting a lot of traction. And in a few hours, they'd gotten a few million views and many thousands of retweets. And that kind of kick-started my Twitter account. And I was like, what am I going to name it? I named it my initials, just very narcissistic, but no other good name came to mind. And that...
Does that still exist?
So here we go.
Okay.
Now it's back, but...
what was it called?
It was called SV News.
SV News.
Yeah, and what happened was that account quickly took off with all of that traffic. We had over 10,000 followers very quickly. And then from the month of about July, August, during those months, we started to grow substantially. And then by the time October came around, Donald Trump had retweeted one of our tweets. And that brought in a tremendous amount of traffic because Donald Trump had, tens of millions of followers on Twitter.
Was he president then or not?
He was president then. Yeah, okay. It was like a Sunday or Monday morning. I was like, he must be drinking, some Coke in the White House with his McDonald's and retweeting me. And
What was it? What was he?
Wow.
What
It was a tweet regarding a group of Hasidim, I think in Brooklyn on Sukkot.
Okay.
And there was some incident with the police there. And that video, there was an actor, I can't remember his name, who had shared the video. And Donald Trump had then reshared that actor's comment on my video. So it ended up being really good for our traffic. And in those months, we were getting about 100 million views a month on our content on Twitter.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
That's a
Are you
huge
serious?
100 million. It was
A
insane.
month. 100 million.
100 million impressions a month. And we had massive followers. We were followed by Trump's campaign team, and our videos were actually making their way into his speeches. We had some videos of, during some riots that were going on in America from some of the racial unrest. There was a video of somebody carting out a washing machine out of a store. And it was a very unique video because it was symbolic of the level of disarray that was happening across the United States. And Donald Trump had spoken later that day, and he said, there was a video I saw on my Twitter of a washing machine being carted out of a store. And I was laughing to myself thinking, we posted that video to Twitter.
That's
and
so funny.
it made its way to the sitting U.S. president.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
That's a good story. And I was very into it. And people were telling me, listen, Shmuley, you got to be careful with what you put on Twitter. They're going to ban you. You're growing so quickly. You're so popular. People love your account.
How many did you have at this time?
We had maybe 50 or 60,000 followers at that time already. And that
all
was
organic. No,
all organic. We didn't pay a cent to
Right.
gain our followers.
That's on Twitter.
This was on Twitter, yeah. And I was the sole, account runner, owner. And there's one thing that really stood out to me with this account. We had one incident where, from my connection to Jewish WhatsApp and to my connection to Jewish news, a video had made its way to me of a Jewish store owner in New York City. He was actually the worker, of this restaurant. It was a pizza store. And there was a customer who came in and he had ordered pizza. But this was a time when New York had no indoor dining. And it would be illegal for you to have patrons in your restaurant eating there. They can only do takeout.
Oh, wow.
And it was a hot day. Okay, it was in the summertime. And he offered him to come into the restaurant to sit down while he's waiting for his pizza. At that moment, an inspector came in from New York City, from the municipality. And he decided he's going to write him a ticket and take him to court and cause a whole mess for his restaurant. And it can really destroy his business. Businesses and, restaurants specifically were really impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And the fact that, just adding another weight to the restaurant's shoulders is tragic. And that video made its way to me. And it's so clear, like, the disrespect he showed and the blatant disregard for what was going on in the situation.
You're talking about the city
inspector.
worker.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Okay.
And he can go to court and he can fight the ticket and he can fight the fine, but the fact that he has to go to court and pay for lawyers, it's a whole, and you don't want to have to get into that. And I found that video and I posted it to the Twitter account, and our Twitter account had a lot, after the Trump retweet, a lot of conservative followers. And I noticed, like, our videos would make their way to, like, Donald Trump Jr. and big conservative figures. So this video, I posted it not thinking too much, and I checked my phone a few minutes later, and it's gotten viral. It's getting hundreds of thousands of views and many thousands of retweets, and I start getting DMs from people like Kyle Kashuv, who is one of the survivors of the Parkland shooting in Florida. And he told me, listen, we got to help this guy out. Let's open a GoFundMe for him. Let's support him, find out the name of the restaurant. So I did some more digging. I found the name of the restaurant. I found the owner. His name was Jacob. And I got in touch with him, and I got him connected with these people. And we were able to start getting people to order food from all around the country from this restaurant to support him. And then they would donate the food. Listen to this. They would donate the food to local police and fire. So they can't, send the food to Texas. They're in New York. But these people in Texas, Arizona, and Nebraska started buying food
This is
online.
an unbelievable story.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable story. And then I got a message from Dave Rubin, who's a big conservative talk show host. And he said, I want to interview Jacob. I want to interview the restaurant owner. So we started making these connections. And then the craziest thing of all is the Fox News assignment desk reached out to me, and they said that we want to get in touch with the owner of the restaurant. Do you have his contact info? So I connected them. And that night, the owner of the restaurant went on the Tucker Carlson show, which is one of the most watched shows in all of America. I think it's 4 million live viewers. And after he went on that show, the amount of support the restaurant got was so unbelievable. Their ticket was, like in the dust. It was irrelevant. And that was one story that really stood out to me, like the power of social media and the power that
Did he ever
impressions
thank you?
have. Oh, he thanked me. Yeah. He invited me to New York. I haven't been there yet, but I want to come visit him. Yeah.
Is it a kosher place or not?
It's a kosher place.
Oh,
yeah.
where in New York?
I'm not exactly sure the name. I have to check, but it's a kosher place.
That is unbelievable. Did you know about this story?
No, I didn't know this story.
Yeah.
This is
Great
sweet.
story.
It's a great story. It was incredible. And what was nice about it was a lot of the media attention that came to the restaurant afterwards, it revolved around the restaurant, and it just brought people together. It showed he was visibly Jewish, wearing his kippah on this TV show, and the fact that there is so much anti-Semitism out there, but the fact that there was so much love shown to his restaurant, and that was just really good to see.
Wow. So what happened to this? Where's SV News now?
So what happened was actually in November, on election day in the United States, we were reporting on the election. And as you know, there was a lot of drama regarding the United States election. Yes. People were saying mail-in ballots are invalid. We won't get into the details, but we don't want to get banned. But there were some strange things happening. Small incidents, very irrelevant, and people were posting them to Twitter, and they were getting suspended for it. Twitter was cracking down on election misinformation. Now, our account we were very careful to stay away from any sort of conspiracy theories or misinformation. Trying to verify what we post is important, especially when you have a big reach, to verify your stories. So we had posted about the election, things like how many votes are being reported in this state, and some videos of things that were going on, like long lines and things like that. And I leave my phone, come back to my phone a few minutes later. I reload. I'm like, I've put in a lot of work into this account. I reload. Your account has been suspended for violating Twitter's rules. So I hop onto WhatsApp and I realized like all of my other friends who run Twitter accounts, they all were just banned, all in a second. Everyone was banned. My personal account,
Wow.
which I hadn't even tweeted, I used it just to, create a feed, had been suspended. The Jewish Breaking News Twitter account had been suspended. We didn't cover the election at all. And, it was very aggravating to just have all of that work taken away from you in an instant, work that you built and, put time and effort into building, and just for them to take away that following in a second. It's very difficult. So I took to Instagram. I wrote we also had an Instagram account, and I wrote on my story, hey, this is what just happened to our Twitter. We're not sure what's going on. We're going to keep you posted. A few minutes later, I log in. My Instagram and Facebook had been suspended as well.
Oh, my goodness.
And no reason why. A few minutes later, there was like a CNN business article about a Twitter crackdown on elections just suspended this account called SV News with about 80,000 followers, 78,000 followers. And there's a Reuters article written about us.
Oh my
and I
goodness.
reached out to the author. I'm like, what is going on? And he wrote that we're connected to Russia. I'm like, seriously? Like, that's really
Because your last name's Ski.
But he didn't know. I was anonymous. There was no connection to my account.
Oh.
And he just had assumed that there was some sort of Russian disinformation going on because some Russian outlets had quoted our tweets in the past, and he thought that means that we're Russian because they used our content. But that was very tragic to learn. And I reached out to Twitter and I appealed, and I eventually was told that there's nothing doing. The account is going to remain suspended. And it was 2 long years until a few weeks ago.
Whoa.
Yeah, Elon Musk, he bought the platform recently for $44 billion.
Mhm.
And he's championing free speech, and we actually were hoping to get reinstated, and it was taking its time. Elon had bought it already for a few months. We were still suspended, and I wrote an email to the head of Twitter's Trust and Safety, who's new in that position, and she actually replied to me a few weeks ago and said, I see your appeal. I'm going to reinstate your account. Please be careful. And we got our account back. Thank God. Yeah.
Amazing.
Just a
Wow.
few weeks ago. Yeah, it was
But
2 years.
the reason why you were suspended was
Never known. We don't know. We think that it might be the fact that we were center-based and we weren't, covering all of the same stories as the mainstream media was. They probably didn't like that. Clearly, the people who work at Twitter had some personal biases that were getting into their moderation. And that's why Elon Musk thought of buying the platform, and that's what he's trying to fix. And now we have the Twitter files, which are talking about all of the things that were going on behind the scenes, how the FBI and Big Pharma was actually going to Twitter and they were having them take down accounts that they didn't agree with. And
Whoa, can you
Are you
talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with what's going
so
on in that.
there
regard.
were
is this public?
This
or
is public. This is very public. Yeah, this has been on the media. The media's gotten a little bored of covering it now, but the Twitter employee, since Elon bought the platform, he did a deep dive investigation with a few journalists into what was going on in Twitter before he bought it. Why were people getting suspended en masse? Why was Trump taken off the platform? So there were a few journalists, Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss, that reported. It was called the Twitter Files. They released them kind of in increments, and they found that you can take a look to be certain, but there was different organizations that were taking, emailing Twitter employees in personal DMs, and they would request people's accounts to be taken down. The FBI reached out with a list of links to usernames and be like, please take down this account. They're not promoting election safety. They're, saying something that might make someone vote on the wrong day. We have to take this down. And Twitter, which is a private company, was actually listening to these organizations. And Pfizer, who, one of the makers of the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine, also was emailing Twitter. And it was a kind of to some people not so surprising, but to others, the fact that there was proof that this was happening at Twitter is pretty, substantial. And it shows that other social media platforms also have similar issues where people with their personal biases, good or bad, are coming and making content moderation decisions based off those biases. And there was even political organizations that were requesting takedowns on Twitter. So that's problematic, because if you don't have a balance of speech, it's not free speech. Now, legally, Twitter is in its rights to do so because they're protected.
They're a private company.
They're a private company, exactly. So they can take down whatever they
weren't private before.
They're
They were
not outright, but they're a company. They're not a government. They don't have the same rules the government applies. It's their platform. They own it.
Right.
Even though they're publicly traded, they can still control whatever content they want on their platform. They can choose.
So
their board can dictate. The CEO has the opportunity
So-
to decide their policies.
Right, the content moderation team, exactly.
Right.
They were making decisions on Slack. They were communicating in personal DMs about big decisions, like taking down the president of the United States. The sitting U.S. president was suspended on Twitter actually after January 6th, And now he's been reinstated by Musk. And actually yesterday, Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, announced that they're going to reinstate Donald Trump in the next few weeks after a suspension for almost 2 years. So social media companies are starting to fix their act.
What's that about? Why did they decide to change? Sorry.
Why did they decide to take him down?
No, why did they decide to put him back up?
Well, that's a good question. I was told the Trump campaign had reached out to Meta and had kind of told them that, we're going to abide by your platform's rules, and, Trump is going to seemingly be starting his campaign for president soon, and they reinstated him. It's not so clear why, but it seems like Meta is going to be very careful about, what he posts. And there's... Go ahead.
I just want to be clear. SV News got kicked off Twitter, and so did Jewish Breaking News.
Everyone got kicked off.
And Jewish Breaking News had no connection to no connection on the
that I think it was because I had been logged in on similar devices and similar IP addresses.
Okay.
So Twitter employees were actually able to just ban me as a person. They banned my identity. They didn't just ban my account. And then when I was suspended on other platforms, I had a feeling that there was some sort of, why was I suspended on Facebook and Instagram just a few hours after Twitter? Was there some sort of communication going on between the two? I will never know.
It sounds like collusion.
It sounds like collusion. Yeah.
So when did Jewish Breaking News get back on?
Jewish Breaking News has still not gotten its account back. Right now, until January 31st, Twitter's doing a review of every account that was suspended and seeing which accounts are qualifying for a reinstatement. And they're kind of like an amnesty program. So we're hopeful that the account will be reinstated soon. In the meantime, we're using a backup account. But our main focus for Jewish Breaking News is actually on Instagram and WhatsApp, where we have about 121,000 followers right now on Instagram, and we reach about 500K a month, which is much less than what we used to reach on Twitter, just because of the makeup of the platform and how it works. Instagram is not good at recommending content like Twitter is. The growth is much harder on Instagram.
Are you on TikTok too or not? So
I had an SV News Alerts account on TikTok. It was the only account that didn't get banned. And we had some viral clips, some viral videos, but I found the TikTok algorithm to be really unpredictable and very hard to gauge which content will do well and not. And yeah. That's shadow bans also get in the way sometimes.
What does?
Shadow bans. Shadow bans are back end alterations of an account, meaning it will be recommended less or not show up in search. And you don't know as the account owner. The only people that know are the ones who are trying to find your content. You can follow someone. If they're shadow banned, you're less likely to see their content.
Do you think social media has too much power? I mean, the fact that they can ban you for 2 years and there's nothing you can do about it, doesn't it seem like maybe there's too much power in social media? Yeah,
it's an issue that social media has the ability to do such a thing. And we've given them that power by being users on their platform. And I think a lot of what Elon Musk is trying to do is he's trying to say that Twitter was too powerful and we need to open it up for everyone. For free speech must be in the public square. That way human intelligence can advance and thoughts can be processed together as a group, because a collective mind is very powerful. And if people are silenced, you don't have that collective. You have biases, and it causes confirmation bias, and it causes these kinds of groups like tribes on social media. We find that people will follow people that they agree with, not people they don't agree with.
Right.
And it will increase their biases, and it can cause extremism. It'll cause polarization, because people who follow what they believe, they're going to go to the right or to the left, and they get sucked down very deep into either direction. And if you suspend one person on one end, they can fall onto a different platform, which is even worse. And things really can just get out of hand. And things can be silenced. Even misinformation can be silenced, but it's important for people to be able to debunk it, because if they're banning it rather than debunking it, then people are going to believe it more. Why are they suspending me for saying this? This is, maybe it's true. It's like you did something wrong, you're running away. Why are you running away if you didn't do anything wrong? It's something there is actually feeding that misinformation. So if now Twitter has a feature where the community can comment on tweets and they can fact check people, and it shows up on the tweet, and it's like a community feedback system where if there's something that's clearly misinformation, the public can comment on it, and it's called community notes actually. And it's a really nice feature because people can fact check things as a collective.
How do they keep that honest when an overwhelming number of people
They have certified fact checkers who you have to get approved to be able to contribute to the system, and people can rate your contributions. So kind of like if everyone goes bad and everyone starts making things up, but chances are
it's like blockchain. You can't have everyone cheating at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like a blockchain for their for truth, I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I definitely want to talk about what you did for Ukraine. I think this is one of the biggest most inspiring things that I know that you've done. I'm finding out more as we are speaking right now, but can you just tell us what you did for Ukraine? First of all, your heritage and why it mattered to you.
Sure. So my mother was born in Moscow, Russia, and my father was born in Kiev, Ukraine. And my mother tongue is Russian. That's what I grew up speaking around till the age of 5, where I started having to learn English. Now my Russian has gotten worse, but I always felt connected to Russia and to Ukraine because that's where I come from. That's the culture I understand. When the war in Ukraine started, I was kind of at disbelief. 2 years prior, I had visited Kiev with my father and my grandmother, where they had grown up. It's a beautiful city. There's a lot of Jews living there. It's one of the most Jewish countries in Europe, actually. There's, if you look at the top 10 Jewish countries, Ukraine, I think, might be on that list.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of Jews living there. I mean, I don't know about now, but before. And I really just enjoyed the country. It's like it's not like, Ukraine. It's not like some vast wasteland. There's a lot of people living there. It's a beautiful country. And when the war had started, the chief rabbi of Ukraine was who was responsible for helping my dad become religious. He, started a fundraiser, and I was following the war because of my connection to the news. And it was really terrible what was going on. People were just having to stop their daily lives and, go and shelter in their homes, and they were trying to get out of the country. And it became a mess very quickly. Things got out of control, so they had to start raising money to help Ukrainian families get out of the country, hire bus drivers. And bus drivers got really expensive because everyone wants to flee. Planes were almost impossible. There were missiles overhead very quickly into the war. They had ballistic missiles into Kiev and things like that. And it became dangerous to be anywhere near eastern Ukraine, and even, some cases more western Ukraine. So when I saw the campaign, I decided to try to help out, to do what I can. And I posted the campaign donation link to Jewish Breaking News. We had a nice following of Jews, and this would be a good way to assist the refugees in Ukraine. And we found that there was a great response. People really liked the ability to donate, to feel part of what's going on. They're reading on the news, but they can actually take action. That was empowering to people. And we were able to raise not too much, but a substantial amount of money just by sharing the fact that this is going on and they need help, using charity. And shortly after that, using this official campaign from the chief rabbi, just sending out that link, I decided to start to personalize the stories. So we found we connected with the chief rabbi of Ukraine and his family and his son, and we were able to get stories about certain individual soldiers. Like there was a Jewish soldier who was fighting on the front lines, and he needs supplies, he needs medications, he needs food, he needs clothing. And we shared that link with the story, saying, well, this money will go and directly help the soldier. And that was incredible. The amount of response there, tens of thousands of dollars we managed to raise for these refugees. And then they actually started to flee, right? And now that the money is coming in, they're able to get transportation. They're able to get clothing and food. Where are they going to go?
Right.
Now, the Ukrainians very quickly realized that if everyone leaves the country, they're not going to have an army left. So they created a draft mandatory conscription for anyone between the age of, I believe it was 18, and even married men. Went up, I think, pretty high. I don't remember exactly what the upper limit was, but it included many married men with families. And they had a few exceptions for people. If you have more than 3 children, you can leave. But a lot of people, who have 1 or 2 children, or they can't leave the country. They get to the border, the police tell them, sorry, you can't leave the country. So things became pretty hectic when that started. And the people who could leave, where are they leaving to? Their homes,
Right.
all their possessions are still in Ukraine. They've got nowhere to go. United Hatzalah and Eli Beer, the founder of United Hatzalah, they started charter flights from Romania to bring people to Israel, to bring them to Ben Gurion Airport. So, after I had been involved in helping fundraise money on the ground for things going on the ground, I realized that Ukrainian refugees are starting to come to Israel, so something needs to be done here. And simultaneously, it actually started on one Saturday night, I was talking to my friend Eitan Kastner, who was also in yeshiva with me. He was a year older than me. And I told him, listen, there's this plane going to Ukraine from Israel very soon, and they need supplies for field hospitals in Ukraine and for children's centers. And he's like, let's go to the pharmacy. Let's go to Super Farm in Jerusalem, and let's buy out their baby food. Let's buy out their wipes. Let's buy out some supplies that can really help people in Ukraine and try to send it on display. So we start texting our friends. Saturday night, America is still in Shabbat. Shabbat's over in Israel. And we've managed to get a few $100s very quickly. So we go straight to the store. We just fill up shopping carts full of supplies. take a few taxis, deliver it to a house of the woman who was supposed to go to Ben Gurion Airport the next morning to deliver these supplies to Ukraine. And once we got to the airport, we realized that there were refugees literally coming and landing in Israel and having nowhere to go. I mean, the Israeli government, the Misad Klita, which is the Ministry of Absorption, they were starting to try to help refugees, but it was such an influx so quickly, they had nowhere to go. They were literally landing from a different country, having nothing, zero. Like, what are they going to do now? Their bank accounts are, they have no access to their money. So we realized that, for the least, the Israeli government was giving them a place to stay in a hotel for like a 2-week period. And there were a few groups of people bringing them food, toys, supplies. So me and Eitan decided that we need to do something about this. There's no concrete effort to help these refugees, but we can't help everyone. There's thousands of refugees, but it's better to start somewhere than nowhere. So we decided to go to these hotels in person, meet these refugees, and ask them what they need. Now, we had some funds left over from that Saturday night when we went to Super Farm to buy some supplies. So we started filling out their purchases. They needed shaver, they needed Advil, they needed this, they needed that, some socks for their son. We went to the store and we bought it and delivered it to them. But we thought, what if we scaled this up? Because at this rate, just us two can't help that many people. But what if we can kind of organize a bigger effort? What we did was we started WhatsApp groups for yeshiva and seminary students in Israel, gap year students, to be able to mobilize and help, because everyone wants to help, right? Everyone wanted to help. Everyone knows that this is wrong, and people, this is literally a war. They're refugees, war refugees. They need assistance ASAP. They would go to the stores and they would fill out the orders that the Ukrainian refugees would ask us. They would ask us for a list of things, this size, this type of thing, like size 13 shoes, size 43 pants, what color they wanted. And we would actually send these students to the store and we would reimburse them. We would raise money simultaneously. In some cases, the students, fill the cost themselves. They're like, I want to donate to the cause. I'm going to buy it for them. We were able to amass 3 full WhatsApp groups of people, of students.
That's like 750 people?
It was a few hundred people. Yeah, back then, the WhatsApp limit was about 256 per group.
Yeah.
And we were able to start helping more people to scale up the model of, assistance to the refugees. And at that point, it was just, my day was wake up in the morning, check my phone, who needs what done, start sending messages. It was crazy, that's what I was doing for a few weeks, until the other organizations that were, more well-funded were able to come in and take care of the situation, because it was really crazy to me that 2 teenagers were having to deal with this. Mm-hmm. And it's like, the thing is the instances that we went through, it's something I don't know, can write a book about. It was crazy.
You should write a book about it.
One day, yeah. It was really incredible.
Yeah, thank you for what you did. It was an inspiring time. We were all here for that, and we were amazed and supportive of what you were doing. It's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I don't like to take too much credit for it, because if you think about it, I was just put in the right place. I had, a few factors that if I didn't have, it wouldn't have worked. I had that social media following, I had the Russian speaking, and I had my location in Jerusalem. If not for those 3 factors, I would have no way of doing this. And even if one of those didn't work.
There's lots of guys that have social media, Russian, living in Jerusalem. You just happen to step up and do it. Not everyone's going to do that.
Right. But again, I think if other people put in the same circumstance, chances are that they would do the same thing. It's just being put there.
It's impressive.
Thank
you
you.
Take credit for it. It's very impressive what you did.
Thank you.
A big fan now.
I'm curious what the future of reporting looks like. AI has become a major trend. People are discovering its expanses and its uses. I am scared about what fake news is going to look like, because now you can put out some honest reporting, great. Then there's going to be 100 articles written by biased sources flooding the system, and they're going to be published. Not only that, but AI has the ability to make videos of people saying things that they never said. I'm just curious what this looks like when it comes to honest reporting, and what it matters for receivers, consumers.
Yeah, great question. So I'm glad you mentioned it. But deepfakes, the AI deepfakes, are really troublesome, and there are now computer programs that can give you the ability to create videos with audio of people like presidents or politicians or CEOs of companies saying things that they'd never really said. You can make fake videos incriminating them, and that's super problematic, because these videos are very high quality, and at this stage a lot of the software is hard to access and expensive and takes a lot of processing power. But slowly that's changing, and already now there are programs like ChatGPT and the parent company OpenAI that runs DALL-E as well, where you can actually give inputs to an AI program that will generate photos for you. You can tell it, draw me a picture of an astronaut on the moon holding a blue balloon, and it will output a photo exactly of that. And it's tremendously, accurate, and it's kind of scary. It's shocking. It's scary. It's scary. And not only that, but like these text-based models like ChatGPT, like this is on the news a lot right now. People are worried that, it's going to change the way people write essays. It's going to change the way.
You don't have to write an essay anymore.
Exactly.
You don't have to write an essay.
It can pass the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it passed like some finance exam also, I saw. Yeah, it's terrifying what these AI models are capable of. Not only that, but you have to be concerned about the people who run these models, because they can control the outputs. Meaning the AI already has certain things that they're not allowing it to talk about. Some for safety reasons, like they don't want people to know how to make a pipe bomb, right? You don't want the AI to explain that to you in detail. That's not very safe. Or they need to have some sort of control over this. It can't be completely free reign, because people are going to use it for malicious purposes. But at the same time, if they, like social media did, put in their political biases into these programs, you have real issues coming up. Like if you have an instance of someone talking about, where they want to go to school, and it tells them don't go there, that's a racist school. But who told it that? Is that really the AI speaking here, or is that the person who created it talking?
Right.
And that's kind of troublesome. And when it comes to news reporting, a lot of writers are going to see in the future maybe potentially difficulties in their work, because these AIs can write really well. I actually tested it out. You can give it a few bullet points, and it can write you an article.
No, someone I know did a Devar Torah on the portion, and it was really good. It was so good, and they only gave him like 2 or 3 keywords. It wasn't a big deal. And I was telling them this is nowhere else on the internet. No one else is going to have the same paper.
Yeah, it's troublesome. I mean, for journalism right now, thankfully, I don't see it, making a big disruption in journalism right at the moment, other than the deep fakes. Those are really concerning. Mm-hmm. And I think that one maybe thing to look into is using AI to detect deep fakes. Seeing if we can create something that can detect them. And it will really just be a battle of computers at that point. Wow. Which computer is stronger. And it's terrifying. Yeah, we have to be careful with what AI can yield.
It is scary. It is eye-opening. It is also such a useful tool for content creators. Like, you just have to use it, I guess, very carefully. But as consumers, it's really scary.
Yeah. You don't know what's written by an AI. I mean, you can't, even now, it's hard to differentiate what's written by ChatGPT or one of these language models, or a real human being. Kind of the creative aspect. And once younger generations and younger students who are, in school discover these tools, their creative mind can be damaged, because they're going to be resorting to the easier route. They're going to go on to this.
I'm telling myself, kids are not going to write papers anymore, ever. I mean, this is the end of kids writing papers.
Right, they're going to have to write it in front of the teacher without their phones, right? And they're going to have to write it on paper again. Imagine back to handwriting.
They will. No, they're going to have to do that. It's the only way you can do it.
Right.
Write a paper in class. You have 3 miles, 3 hours. Write a class. You can use all these books. Whatever you want to do, but you have to write the class yourself.
Exactly.
I was thinking about it. Like, you can have an overbearing parent. Like, I'm going to watch you write your paper. Great. They're typing it up. They go to the bathroom for 1 minute, and the whole paper's done.
They've gone. They've done already. Like,
it's crazy. It types it up so quickly too. I don't know if you've seen it. It's
it is amazing.
A few hundred words per minute.
Yeah,
it's incredible. And I wonder if there might be a way to kind of create hybrid intelligence, because at this point, what's happening is it's like we have the human natural intelligence and we have artificial intelligence, and one of them are threatening to replace the other, right? Artificial intelligence is threatening to take over natural intelligence and starting to become more intelligent than human beings are. Now, if there's a way to combine the two, to be able to have humans use AI as tools, solely as tools, not as replacements, to enhance productivity and to enhance, time, because time is the most valuable thing we have. If they can save us time, but not take up our jobs, that would be amazing. That can be life-changing, and that can actually change economies. That's a disruption.
That would be. Yeah. I hope that we can get to that point.
We are going to have a future podcast on GPT. Thank you, because it's such an overwhelming concept that we need to do some research on.
Right. The funny thing is, AI has been around for a few years now, and these types of tools have existed. But this is one of the big moments where it breaks to the mainstream, and everyone just hits them with a shock and awe. Like, they didn't know that this exists, and people in the field, they're like, okay, this is cool, this is a great development. But other people who aren't familiar with AI are like in absolute shock. This has been in development for a while now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on that side of the story.
I'm
too.
shocked. I'm thinking to myself, sell Google. Sell, like, what's going to happen to Google now?
Actually, good question, because some people are saying that, if their inputs to ChatGPT are yielding better search results than Google is.
Yeah.
Now, Microsoft recently, they have a search engine called Bing, and they were recently there were talks about Bing acquiring ChatGPT or kind of combining the two to create a search browser, search engine using ChatGPT. And that search engine could be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
The combinations of, the internet index, which that's what search engines do. They index different websites, and so they can yield you the correct results. Now, if you can combine that with a really good artificial intelligence that people know about, you can have a really big product.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Doesn't anyone else make artificial intelligence?
They do. But ChatGPT and their model is at the moment one of the best in what it does. At least that's available to the public. I'm
Right.
sure Google has something in the works because they're a massive company, and they have many minds to put to the task. I'm sure that they have people working on something similar because they find it a threat. If they don't find it a threat, then they need to hire new people to assess
I'm
the
sure
threats.
they find it a threat.
Yeah.
It is a great search engine.
It's unbelievable.
Obviously, it
It's
stops at this point in 2021, I believe.
Right, the cutoff. Yeah, but you can trick it. I mean, it'll tell you that, but if you ask certain way, there are ways of getting around it. Yeah.
It knows. Eventually, it'll be able to read the whole news every single day and just be up with the times. This is just the tip of the
Yeah,
iceberg.
indeed.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where it goes and a little nervous, so we
Yeah.
just have to stay ahead of the curve
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
and use it for hybrid purposes to keep our intelligence intact. Wow.
Exactly.
There's been so much to process, and there's so much more we can talk about.
I think we'll have you on again.
Thank
There's
you
a lot.
very much.
There's a lot. There's just too much to get in one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for having me
Podcast.
on.
But before we let you go,
Sure.
where can people follow you now? How can people learn and follow Jewish Breaking News while that account
Sure,
is not
good
in
question.
existence? And
Yeah, so actually on Instagram, Jewish Breaking News, you can just look that up right now.
right.
And also my personal is Shmuli VLD. That's SHMULI VLD, where I post my adventures in Israel and what I'm up to.
Great.
So if the people want to stay in touch, that would be the best place as well.
Amazing. And is there a spark of clarity you'd like to share with our audience?
Spark of clarity is anything you want to do. Don't keep it in your dreams. If you actually start setting goals towards your dreams, they will happen. And be productive and don't procrastinate. Turn off your phone before bed, put it on the other side of the room, get 8 hours of sleep, wake up on time, and your life will change.
All right.
Very good. Wow. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
pleasure.
having me on. It's
Amazing.
been a pleasure.
And thank you so much for watching this episode of the Living in Clarity podcast.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Living in Clarity podcast.
If you enjoy what you just heard, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment with any suggestions for future episodes.
We'll see you next time.